Mufasa. Here we go.
Welcome,
enjoy the
friends,
show.
to the animation experience at Conservation Station. Since the 1930s, Disney animators have put their pencils to paper in service of the idea that the greatest inspiration often comes from the magic of nature. Walt Disney himself understood the importance of spending time around animals, studying their behavior and personalities in order to create realistic characters and dynamic storylines. This meeting of the human and animal worlds sparked a legacy of storytelling that has shaped our relationship with animals and conservation forever. Today, we invite you to become a part of that legacy as our own Disney artists help you learn to sketch characters inspired by the very animals found here at Disney's Animal Kingdom. Get your pencils ready, because here comes our animation artist now.
She should have her head down while she's drawing, so we should be all right, guys.
Mufasa!
Mufasa.
Before we do, let's take a look at this.
All right, guys,
I'll
enjoy.
tell you the story. The story of Mufasa.
A story! So glad I brought some crickets.
When The Lion King was released 5 years ago, Disney teamed up with the Wildlife Conservation Network's Lion Recovery Fund
to protect the pride and conserve lions in the wild, working towards a vision to double the number of lions across Africa by 2050.
Since that time, and with support from many of you, the Lion Recovery Fund has been able to fund more than 300 projects across 25 countries in Africa.
With at least 50% of sites in which LRF is investing already showing stable or increasing populations of lions.
You can't survive on your own.
Nobody can. And yet, here we are.
There's more to be done, and you can help.
We must stand together.
To celebrate Mufasa the Lion King, Disney is once again supporting the Lion Recovery Fund and their efforts to ensure a future for lions.
The Lion Recovery Fund is working across Africa to maintain lion habitat
And joining forces with local communities to protect lions on behalf of the world.
Your fight is my fight.
Your support is critical.
When we come together to protect lions, we protect important habitats for all kinds of wildlife.
From meerkats and warthogs to hornbills and hyenas.
And we build hope for a future where lions and people thrive.
To learn how you can protect the pride,
Visit disney.com/Mufasa, protect the pride.
Alrighty, so what we're going to do is we're going to find the halfway point between the center guideline right here and the side of the circle, in between these two horizontal guidelines, and I'm going to draw a little curve. Like this. Then I'll come to a bit of a point right in between and draw a curve underneath. Let's start to work on his eye. And I'll just pull this down. And we get this little kind of arrowhead shape. I'm going to thicken up the top curve, because that's where his eyelids, eyelashes are. Just thicken that up. And then in the bottom of this shape, I'm going to draw little parentheses in the bottom right corner, with another parentheses on the inside of that. That's the iris, that's the pupil. Inside of the pupil, we're going to put a glimmer of light. Light just reflects off of our eyes. That's just what it does. And we know he lives in a world with light because that's the first 2 seconds of the movie is, oh, it's a thing, yeah, sunrises. So we know light is in his world, so we're going to add a little ball of light. And I'm going to fill in that pupil around that little ball of light. Like so. I'm going to go just to the right of that. Just barely to the right. I'm going to draw a little curve. Now, if you want to measure how far down the nose goes, you can kind of find the halfway point between this top guideline right here and the bottom. It's going to be right about there. Make a little mark. And then I'm just going to pull this line down, swing into that line. Pull this up on the other side, swing in a little bit closer on the right-hand side than I did on the left side. A little bit closer, because his head is slightly turned. You can tell by the slight curve of the center guideline. So I get this letter U. If you start to get frustrated at all, just remember, you probably have an eraser at your house. You can always erase stuff later. While we're over here, we'll give him his nose leather. Just as we start to curve in right here, I'm gonna pull a little line over to the right, and then swing down to that center guideline. And then back up on the other side, and down. That's the nose leather, that's the wet part of his nose. And in the nose leather, he has his nostrils. So we'll draw a little hook shape on the inside. And another one over here. And you can shade in those nostrils. And always save the shading for later if you're falling behind at all. And I'll go ahead and divide the nose leather in half simply by tracing over that line right there. I'm going to add an extra little wrinkle to the top of the nose right over here, kind of in between the nose and the blue guideline. And we've got the gap over here. We don't have a gap over here because his head is slightly turned, so the eye's coming up, partly masked by the bridge of his nose. And draw a little curve and then swing that around. Give this his other eye. During the day, lions have eyesight about the same as ours, but at night it is 6 times better. You can see really well at night. They're generally only going to be awake at night for about 4 hours a day. They sleep 20 hours a day. Isn't that the life? Anybody else want to be a lion? Just me? Gonna do the same thing over here, just a little parentheses. Another parentheses on the inside. And add that little bowl of light. Who saw our lions today? Anybody? Only like 5 of you, okay. Definitely go see our lions. They're on safaris. Even if you walk up to safaris and you're like, oh, I have to stand in line for an hour or 2 hours, do it. It is the flagship ride in our park. It's what makes this park the largest theme park in the world. It's massive. And it's where you see the lions and the cheetahs and the elephants and rhinos and mandrills and all that stuff is on safaris. Giraffes. So definitely don't skip safaris, but that's where you're going to see the lions. When you saw our lions, were they awake or asleep? Asleep? Yeah, that's generally going to be the case. Over here on the left, I'm going to connect the eye to the nose, a little tiny little funnel shape, really dark. That's going to be his tear duct. Lions have really dark tear ducts, and anytime you see any animals with darkness around their eyes, what that's doing is it is reducing the glare of the sun. So you're not going to go out and see the lions wearing sunglasses. So they have to have something to keep the sun out of their eyes, and that's darkness around the eyes. That's the same concept as professional athletes putting eye black under their eyes. It's like natural sunglasses. All right, the tip of the eye over here, I'm going to draw a little color separation line, which is just going to go halfway between the eye and the side of the circle. Now, lions also have white pads under their eyes. It does the opposite of the darkness around the eyes. It reflects moonlight, makes it easier for them to see at night. So I'm going to draw a little curve, comes in close to the bottom of the eye. That's the white pad. You do the same thing over here. You can draw that little color separation line halfway between the eye and the side of the circle, and then pull a little line down for that little pad. Our lions in our first animated Lion King in 1994 have spots around their eyes. It's not something that's normal for lions, but we added spots just so that we could break up the color in their faces a little bit, so they could be more emotive, make more emotions with their faces. So I'm going to add at the top of the spot, I'm also going to give him something that lions are also not that well known for, that'd be eyebrows. Yeah, they don't have eyebrows. Their faces are covered in fur. That's a human trait. But we give eyebrows to animated characters so they can be happy, sad, angry. Because animals can't do that. That's a human thing. I'm going to curve up, down into the eye, and then back up again with a little buck. It's going to have a stern look on his face. And I'm going to add some fur, some hair to the eyebrows, because they're eyebrows. Over here, we'll raise this eyebrow up. So I'm going to pull a little curve up a little bit higher and then come back down to the end of that line. And then thicken that up, add little pieces of hair coming off. The pads under the eyes you want to keep white. But up top you can put a little bit of a shade too. Don't make it solid black though, they're not black spots. It's dark. We're going to go back down to the nose, and I'm going to draw a philtrum. The philtrum is that line that you see on your cat or your dog that connects the nose to the mouth. And what it does is when they're drinking water, it's bringing water up from their tongue onto their noses, keeping their noses wet. So it kind of travels up that line, which is right here. All mammals have a philtrum. We have a philtrum. Ours just doesn't do anything. Ours is just this divot right here. It just makes it hard to shave. That's about it. But it's still called philtrum. Dogs and cats, it's a literal line. All right, over here to the left, I'm going to draw a little frown. It's going to curve down so it's lined up with the side of the nose. Over here, bring this down until I'm lined up with this blue guideline, and I'm just going to bring it down to that blue guideline. I'm going to give him a little bit of his muzzle. This is the area where his whiskers are. And I'm just going to come out from the side of the nose, just a little bit, and then come down to the mouth. Over on the left, same thing, curve out a little bit. Going to go around the mouth though. Down to the circle and curve out a little bit to that blue guideline to give him his chin. And on the chin, we're going to draw a bunch of tiny little round off letter W's. And that's for maybe like 4 of them, and then I'll just trace over the blue guideline. Did anybody get a chance to see our lions roaring? No? I often hear them when I come in the mornings. The roar sound travels for about 6 miles. It's a very deep guttural roar. Has anyone ever heard a real lion roaring like in front of them before? Yeah? Does it sound like what you think a lion roar is?
No.
Probably not, right? Because a lion roar is like a deep grunt. It's like they're exasperated. It's like, that's a lion roar. It's not what we think of as lion roars, and that's because they realize that lion roars don't sound that great in TV shows and movies, and ever since movies have had sound, they've been overdubbing lions with tigers. So that famous MGM lion roar is a tiger roar, dubbed over a lion. Yeah. Anytime they have them in TV shows and movies, it's always tigers, because tigers have really loud, over-the-top roars. Could you imagine the MGM lion coming up to like the new James Bond movie or something, and you hear this, and then dun 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 dun? Yeah, it really wouldn't. It really wouldn't bring it in. They do that with other animals as well, like what we think a bald eagle sounds like is actually a red-tailed hawk, because bald eagles sound really doofy. Look them up. They don't sound right. Not what we think they should sound like anyway. All right, we're going to give him his dad hair, and he does have dad hair. I'm going to start from just below the blue guideline right here and draw a curve that curves up into the right-hand side of this blue letter V, just like that. So the lion's manes are all designed differently in our 1994 Lion King. When Simba becomes an adult, he has rock star hair. His personality is supposed to be like Ferris Bueller. No joke. That's why they got Matthew Broderick to do his voice. He's supposed to be like Ferris Bueller. and they use John Bon Jovi as the model for his mane. Whereas Mufasa is a dad. They started designing him in the late 80s. He's a late 80s dad. So he has that kind of mound of hair on his head, you know, that just kind of slicks back and then they spray it down so it's just a helmet. And you guys know what I'm talking about. That's what Mufasa has. So that's what we're going to draw. I'm going to go from this line right here and draw a little curve up. Over here on the left, I'm going to pull a line over to the circle. Bring it down just a little bit of an angle. Do the same thing over here. Up, down, a little bit of an angle. Then we're going to make it a little more flowy. So I'm going to draw a curve. It starts a little bit above this line, so we make a letter V. It's going to go a little bit inside of our circle and just curve out nice and flowy, nice and smooth. Over here on the right, same thing. I'm going to curve in a little bit to the inside of my circle, curve out. That's going to box in his face so we can give him his cheeks. So his cheeks, I'm just going to very lightly pencil this in. I'm going to draw a sideways shark fin. I'm going to curve down and then curve up to the inside of my circle and down to the chin. Do that on both sides. Down, back up. But we need to add fur in there. So before you get too dark with those lines, you're just going to draw some little letter V's in there and make it look like cheek fur. Just like so. So for the Lion King, we didn't use lions, we didn't use tigers for the roars. We used a man named Frank Welker yelling into a trash can to provide all the roars for the lions. Now he's a very talented man. He's best known as the voice of Megatron, Scooby-Doo. Fred from Scooby-Doo is his regular talking voice, so if you can imagine Fred from Scooby-Doo yelling into a trash can to make lion roars, that's pretty much it. He's done thousands of voices, but there's actually behind-the-scenes video of him doing that. It's pretty impressive. All right, we're going to keep working on this mane so we can get the ears peeking out. So over here at the end of this blue guideline, I'm going to draw a little curve, and then just a little curve out like that. Over here, a little curve up at the blue guideline, going through the blue guideline below it. So The Lion King is based on Hamlet, and it follows all the story points of Hamlet. In fact, the original draft of the script was pretty much Hamlet. It ended the same way. Anybody ever read Hamlet before? Yeah, so you know the ending is not that great. It's a very tragic ending. They decided to change it at the last minute because they probably wanted to make sequels. They didn't want to just kill off Simba. So they changed the ending. But it is based on Hamlet, which is why it doesn't follow like the normal norms of nature. I'm going to pull this line up at the top now, and I'm just going to add some little pieces of hair sticking out. As in actual nature, male lions never see their kids. It's true. It's the female lions that do all the hunting, they birth the cubs. The male lions just sit in the pride and protect the pride from outside predators and other lions. So the bigger the mane, the more dominant they are. Also means the longer they've lived and the darker it gets, which is also not something we kept in The Lion King because Mufasa, being a dominant lion, would have almost a black mane. We gave that to Scar because he's a bad guy. So there you go. Over on the right, I'm going to bring this up, maybe add a little piece of fur, go up to the blue guideline, and bring this down just to the blue guideline over here. Bring that around. But it's important that when you watch any animated film that you take it as entertainment it is and you don't watch it and go, well, now I don't ever need to know anything about African lions because I learned it all in The Lion King. Once again, we changed a lot, so do yourselves a favor and educate yourselves by watching nature documentaries, reading magazines like National Geographic, because it's because of cartoons that we have a whole society of people that have grown up thinking that rabbits eat carrots and mice eat cheese, and that dogs are colorblind, and none of those things are correct. Yeah. All right, we're going to go from the blue guideline up here, draw a little curve out to the end of this blue guideline there, and bring this back in. That's his little ear peeking out. All mammals have cartilage in our ears just to, you know, make the shape of our ear, and lions have it across the top, so a little curve like that, and then he has a little curve on the inside that you can fill in. Over here, we'll just see kind of the back of his ear peeking out, because lions have the ability to rotate the ears 180 degrees. And they can rotate them in different directions and pick up different sounds from different places. They can listen for a gazelle over here while they're listening to a zebra over here. So they can just rotate them around like little satellite dishes. Lions don't do a lot of their own hunting. They're actually not that great at it. They only hunt for themselves about 20, well, they're only able to hunt about 20% of the time. That's how often they catch their prey. The rest of the time they rely on better hunters, things like painted dogs, which are the best hunters on the savannah. They're successful at getting their prey about 75% of the time, 80% of the time. And then second would be hyenas, which we portrayed as scavengers in The Lion King, which are actually mighty hunters that are able to get their prey about 70% of the time. So lions, being not that great at hunting, will rely on smaller animals, and then they'll take prey off of them. And then add just a few little lines in there. See this little curve down here, this cursive letter V that we made? I'm just gonna pull this down, trace over that, and this is actually gonna be some shadow. So it's just gonna curve up. You can go and you can put some shade in there if you really want to. It's not something you really need to worry about shading, because you guys get to keep those pencils. You can do this years from now with those same golf pencils if you want to. It's right, free souvenir from us to you. Don't ever say that we never gave me anything for free at Disney. All right, this curve right here is his shoulder. I'm just gonna add a little bit of fur on the shoulder, just a couple little overlapping curves. When it comes to fur, you just kind of want to not think about it, because you could literally close your eyes and just flow your arm around and you'll make something that looks like hair. People tend to overthink this, but I'm just gonna flow down with a nice curve, which is gonna maybe pull out an extra little jut along the way. Over here on the left, little jut of fur, bring this around, and get that big mane. Only males have manes, male African lions, and sometimes male African lions, rarely, but if they have a genetic defect or something, they may not have a mane at all. So female lions cannot get manes. Lastly, I'm just gonna throw a couple of little lines in there just to make it look like he's got some flow. And lastly, we need some whiskers. And they're just inside the line for his muzzle right there. So I'm just gonna throw a few off the side there. Whiskers are really important for all cats. They're like sensors that pick up their surroundings. They pick up slight changes in air movement, and it helps them to tell how big they are. And you know the whole thing as a cat owner, if it fits, it fits. It's the same with lions. And it's their whiskers that tell them if they'll fit. So I don't know why anyone would do this, but don't ever trim your cat's whiskers. It's gonna just literally mess with them mentally and psychologically, and they're no longer going to know how big they are. They're not gonna know if they can jump off the top of something and land correctly, all of that kind of stuff. So don't mess with their whiskers. Why do dogs have whiskers? Same reason why I do. There's no reason for dogs to have whiskers. They're just short little hairs on dogs. They're not like long cat whiskers. All right, you can finish up with extra shading if you want to. The nose is a little bit darker brown on that nose leather. Otherwise, go ahead and sign your drawing. Be proud of what you've done. Now, today we're doing 10 classes, and we draw a different character in every class. You guys can come around and learn to draw characters like Scar and Ed the Hyena and Timon. If you want to get really good, though, find out more drawing Mufasa again. Take on the Mufasa class, because the more you draw the same thing over and over again, the better you get. It's called practice. Now, practice does not make perfect. You got to get that out of your head. Practice makes improvement. Practice will make you better, and if you do it a lot, practice makes you a master of your craft, so practice is really important. throw the date on there, which is the 2nd